Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror thriller films from 2025, titled Night of the Reaper. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens in a quiet suburb in the 1980s, where we see a girl named Emily babysitting two kids, Mark and Marina. Mark is scared about the skin eater who lives in his closet, so Emily blocks the closet with a chair and a teddy bear. She then makes Marina stay with her brother to comfort him before exiting the room. Next, Emily starts dancing to loud music in the living room, and is completely lost in the moment. But her fun is interrupted when she hears the garage door opening, prompting her to clean up the place frantically. Emily then gets ready to greet the parents, but to her surprise, no one is in the garage. She goes outside to smoke when something on the road catches her eye, and it turns out to be a dead dog. Horrified, Emily returns to the house, only to notice the teddy bear from earlier with a note that says, "You're pretty." An annoyed Emily assumes Mark is playing a prank, but she finds him fast asleep. The closet door is open, with the chair fallen on the floor. Soon after, Emily finds Marina in her room, and thinks Marina is playing a prank on her and trying to pass it off as Emily's ex-boyfriend, Chad, who used to break windows to win her over. But Marina insists she didn't write it, and points out the incorrect grammar. Regardless, the babysitter doesn't believe her and exits the room, only to find several photo frames lying on the floor. Emily assumes it's Mark and heads to his room, but finds the teddy bear again with another note that says "Be mine." The chair has fallen once again and the closet is open. Up next, Emily rushes to pick up the frames, when she notices one of the doors creaking open. She goes to check and doesn't find anyone, but we see someone pass behind her. She then heads to Marina's room, where she's shocked to see the girl gagged with a note attached to her that says "Forever." A horrified Emily rushes downstairs to call the police, but the telephone wire has been cut. Her attention is then drawn to the TV, where a strange video is playing of a masked person in a Grim Reaper outfit, carrying a note that says, "And ever." There's also a camera nearby, and soon the same masked person appears behind Emily and attacks her with a knife. The scene then cuts to some time later, where we see a girl named Dina returning to her hometown after a long time. She is soon startled by her old friend, Chad, who's holding a camera and begins annoying her. Another guy named Willis then steps in, and sends Chad away. Willis asks Dina if they're good, to which she nervously affirms before walking off. Later, Dina arrives at a drugstore, where she notices a forest ranger named Elizabeth and silently greets her. She then picks up her dad's prescriptions, and leaves the store. Meanwhile, we meet the town sheriff, Arnold, who discovers a package sitting on his doorstep. He takes the box inside and opens it, only to find a remote that instantly sets his nerves on edge. Afterward, Dina arrives to meet her friend, Hattie, and the girls are overjoyed to see each other after such a long time. They drink coffee, and talk about their plans to have fun, though Hattie mentions that tonight she's busy babysitting Arnold's son. It turns out the sheriff's wife passed away a while ago, so Hattie jokingly reveals that she plans to fill the void in the man's life and wants to marry him. Meanwhile, we see Arnold and his partner, Butch, arrive in front of a house where something terrible happened and is now up for sale. Here Arnold hands Butch the remote he received, and when he presses the button, the garage door opens. Arnold reveals that he received the garage remote on his doorstep this morning. Elsewhere, Dina arrives home, where her mom happily greets her. Dina then approaches her dad and tells him about her college, but he appears numb and doesn't respond to anything. Later, the mother assures an upset Dina that dad is proud of her. She also reveals that Hattie had called her earlier, saying there has been some kind of emergency. Meanwhile, the officers return to the station, and we learn that the house they just visited was where Emily was killed. Just then, a staff member gives Arnold another box, saying it showed up on her porch, but was addressed to him. The officers then open the package and find a cassette titled Night of the Reaper. They play it and see footage of a young man camping in a forest, who soon hears rustling noises. He rushes to investigate, and soon comes across a dead dog, which horrifies him. When he returns to his tent, he discovers a camera, and then the Reaper suddenly appears and kills him with a single strike. The officers are horrified, and Arnold says that the boy is Connor Davis, who was found dead by the creek 2 years ago. Even though authorities ruled it an accident, Arnold reveals he never believed it and had always been suspicious. Elsewhere, Dina calls Hattie, who reveals that she's terribly sick, and desperately asks her to babysit the sheriff's kid tonight. Dina hesitates at first, but when Hattie continues to plead, she finally agrees. Meanwhile, Arnold and Butch are driving when they notice Elizabeth on the road, inspecting a dead dog. She explains that it must have been run over, and it's already the 4th or 5th one this month. Shortly after, the officers arrive at the woods to inspect the place where Connor Davis died. But then, Arnold's eyes widen in shock when he notices another package lying ominously on the ground. The duo takes it to the station, and soon discovers that it's another cassette titled Night of the Reaper, the Babysitter. As they play the tape, they are horrified to witness footage of Emily before she died. They replay it for any clues, and soon notice a parked van, which shockingly turns out to be Chad's. Elsewhere, Dina finally arrives at the sheriff's house, which is secluded deep within the woods. She then meets Arnold's little son, Max, and the two introduce themselves to each other. Meanwhile, the officers have brought Chad in for questioning, and even seized his camera. The boy stubbornly refuses to cooperate, citing his constitutional rights, and even demanding a lawyer. But Arnold accuses him of making snuff films, and claims he's an accessory to Emily's murder, which leaves him visibly speechless. Back to Dina, she asks Max to give her a tour of the house, and in exchange, she will give him a treat. The boy excitedly agrees, and begins showing her around the place. The two soon arrive in the basement, where Dina finds a box of belongings of Max's late mom. She opens it and finds a wedding dress, but this upsets Max, who suggests going upstairs. The two then continue exploring, and Dina notices a locked room, so Max explains that it's his dad's office and there's a gun inside. Dina then spots a picture of his mom, who passed away in a car accident. Max reveals that both he and his dad miss her greatly. Shortly after, she gets a call from Arnold, who asks if everything is okay, to which she affirms. After hanging up, Arnold begins questioning Chad again, but the boy doesn't seem scared, and even threatens to sue them. Arnold then brings up his friend Willis, suggesting he might be an accomplice, but Chad claims that he hasn't done anything wrong either. Arnold refuses to believe this, and asks Butch to bring in Willis, but the latter insists they can't act irrationally since there isn't enough evidence. This only enrages Arnold, who declares he will do it himself and sets out to find Willis. Back in the house, it's time for Max's bedtime, so Dina tucks him into bed and heads downstairs. She then takes a sip from a bottle of whiskey, and looks for food when, suddenly, she hears a dog shrieking outside. Dina heads out with a flashlight, and approaches the dog, which is now completely dead. Just then, the door behind her begins rattling. The scared girl quickly rushes inside and locks the door, before finally letting out a sigh of relief. Later, Dina calls animal control to report the dead dog, and the operator assures her they will pick it up in the morning. Meanwhile, Arnold breaks into Willis's empty apartment, and begins inspecting carefully. The TV is flickering with nothing but static, and a dog collar catches his eye, immediately raising his suspicions. Meanwhile, Dina feels alone and scared, so she calls Hattie, and the two begin talking. But this is when she suddenly hears a loud thud upstairs, and asks if it's Max, but there's no response. Just then, Hattie hears her doorbell ring and has to cut the call, despite Dina begging her not to go. Her fear escalates as she starts hearing footsteps moving through the house, and notices that someone has opened the basement door. Elsewhere, Arnold hears music coming from a room, and heads there to see what's going on. But he's shocked when he finds a tape with the same title, Night of the Reaper. Dina, on the other hand, cautiously approaches the basement, calling out if someone is messing with her. And then, when she turns on the lights, meanwhile, Willis returns to his apartment, but Arnold quickly points a gun at him and arrests him for the murder of Emily. Dina, on the other hand, desperately tries to call Hattie, but the latter doesn't pick up. She heads to Max's room to accuse him of messing with her, but he's peacefully sleeping. Dina soon hears a loud thud, and as she rushes to check, she sees Max's mom's picture, now covered with a news article about her accident. The girl runs to the living room, right when she hears the sound of glasses shattering from upstairs. She rushes to check and realizes the sound came from Arnold's office. Back at the station, Arnold brings in a beaten-up Willis, after which Chad is finally released, and he is horrified to see his friend arrested in such a battered state. Arnold then locks himself in a room, and plays the tape he found at Willis's place. To his shock, it turns out to be footage of someone who is seen hitting a tree after being distracted by the Reaper. It turns out to be Arnold's late wife, who is still alive at first, but the Reaper brutally bashes her head multiple times until she's actually dead. This devastates poor Arnold and fills him with overwhelming grief and anger. Elsewhere, Dina enters Arnold's office at home, and notices the window has been shattered. Her attention is then drawn to a board, which reveals the thorough investigation Arnold has been conducting on the killer. Suddenly, she hears a loud banging and footsteps approaching, prompting her to quickly call 911. Back at the station, Arnold enters the interrogation room and demands that Butch get out. Once they are alone, Arnold aggressively demands to know why Willis had his wife's footage, so the terrified boy reveals that he was only supposed to give it to Arnold. The sheriff angrily demands to know by whom, right when Butch says they've got an emergency. Elsewhere, we see the Reaper creeping toward Max's room with a camera and a knife, while the officers are seen rushing frantically to somewhere. The Reaper soon hears Dina speaking with the 911 operator in another room, and follows the voice. But in a shocking twist, it turns out the voice is coming from just a tape recorder. At the same time, the police reach a drugstore, and open a bag, but find nothing inside. They quickly call Arnold to provide an update, and we learn that someone anonymously reported a bomb being planted in the bag. Back in the house, the Reaper grabs the tape player, right when Dina attacks the killer with a taser while a fierce smile spreads across her face. Sometime later, the Reaper wakes up in a chair, and in front of them plays the footage of Emily's death. Dina soon appears in the footage, wearing a mask and telling the Reaper that she knows who they are, what they've done, and what they intend to do tonight. She reveals that while searching the Reaper's house, she stumbled upon a hidden stash of tapes, and a journal detailing a twisted plan to kill Hattie and Max. At this point, the Reaper removes the mask, and in a shocking twist, it turns out to be Elizabeth. Dina then reveals that she had been planning this for a long time. We learn she deliberately put pills in Hattie's coffee to make her sick and unable to babysit tonight. After that, she added sleeping pills to Max's drink, and asked Willis to help take him away for his safety. Willis then took Max to Hattie's place, and we also learn that Dina left her bag at the drugstore this morning. She then called 911 and reported a suspicious bag she believed might contain a bomb. She did all of this to ensure the police were distracted, and no one could come to Elizabeth's aid. Upon hearing all this, Elizabeth is shocked and stumbles out of the room in a dazed state. She frantically searches the kitchen for knives but finds nothing. Her eyes then fall on a picture of her victim on the fridge, accompanied by a chilling message, "I came to watch you die." Elizabeth then rushes upstairs and notices several more threatening messages along the way. She soon discovers a walkie-talkie, through which Dina communicates and informs her that they are all waiting for her. Meanwhile, at the station, Arnold is informed about who left the bag, leaving him stunned. Back in the house, Elizabeth frantically searches for Dina, who mercilessly taunts and threatens her through the walkie-talkie. Elizabeth eventually spots Dina outside, signaling her with a flashlight, while her face is painted like a Reaper. An enraged Elizabeth charges into the woods, only to be confronted by several scarecrows dressed as Reapers. And then, while she's distracted, right here. At this moment, a shocking revelation comes to light. Dina is none other than the older sister of Emily, who is Elizabeth's victim. She is ready to take revenge on the woman who destroyed her family. But before she can pull the trigger, it's about time. Chad strikes Dina unconscious with a heavy log. The two killers work together to drag her unconscious body into the house. Meanwhile, Arnold tries to contact his house several times, but there's no response, which worries him. It turns out all the officers have been dispatched to the bomb scene, so he heads out alone by himself. On the other hand, Dina wakes up in the house and notices Chad desperately trying to treat Elizabeth's wound. Dina then tells Elizabeth that she made a mistake, revealing that she saw her at Emily's funeral, and later followed her home. Meanwhile, Chad bandages Elizabeth's wound with a scarf, while Dina reminds him how his dad used to give him black eyes, and now he's just replacing him with Elizabeth. But Chad yells at her, insisting that Elizabeth is an artist, and Dina is only jealous because they made Emily a star. Chad then informs Elizabeth that the sheriff sent an officer to his house, but he slit the man's throat before coming here. He worries that their cover is blown, and that they need to escape immediately, but Elizabeth assures him that they will go unnoticed just like they always do. Just then, they hear Willis' voice on a walkie-talkie, and Dina mocks the killers for thinking they are in control here. Chad angrily grabs the walkie-talkie, and plans to lure Willis in, and after killing them, he and Elizabeth can disappear. But then all of a sudden, the fuck does he want? Elizabeth brutally blasts Chad head open, after which she lunges to attack Dina as well. Sometime later, Dina wakes up to find herself tied to a chair while Emily's final moments are playing in front of her. A camera is set up nearby, and Elizabeth reveals her plan to finish Dina slowly, just like she did with her sister. She coldly explains that no one cares about Emily, which is why she records everything, because everyone eventually forgets. Next, Elizabeth wears her mask, and brutally stabs Dina's leg, causing her to scream in pain. But Dina tells her that she forgot one thing, that she didn't just kill Emily. Arnold then appears and shoots Elizabeth. He's worried about his son, but Dina assures him that he is in a safe place. Up next, Arnold is shocked to see that the Reaper is none other than Elizabeth. The deranged woman tries to pretend it was all Dina's doing and begs for his help, which the sheriff obviously doesn't believe. When Elizabeth grabs a knife to attack him, he fires a final shot to her head, ending her life once and for all. Afterward, Arnold realizes that it was Dina who sent him the package, and she says that he deserved to know the truth. Arnold wants to call the officers, but Dina stops him, saying she doesn't want Elizabeth to ruin their lives as well. With this, Arnold comes up with a plan. Elizabeth will be reported missing in a few days, and after that, they will search her house. There, they will find all the evidence proving that she was the killer. The plan goes smoothly, and the officers eventually find Chad's body along with other evidence at Elizabeth's place, confirming her as the killer. The movie ends with Emily's memorial, while Arnold tells Dina that they now share a dark secret, having both found a way to exact revenge and honor the memory of their loved ones.